We spend so much time focused on making AI agents understand a situation. But here's the real question. Once an agent actually understands what's going on, what should it be allowed to do? This is where the whole idea of an AI platform becomes absolutely critical, but probably not for the reason you think.
So, I want to kick things off with a question for you. When you imagine a powerful AI agent, one that's designed to work inside your business, what do you think is its single most dangerous feature?
It's kind of counterintuitive, right? But the answer is, it's freedom. See, an agent that has no limits, no boundaries, well, in the enterprise world, that's not a feature. That is a massive liability. And that one simple idea, it changes everything about how we should be building these things.
And this completely flips the common perception on its head. When most of us hear AI platform, our brains immediately jump to power. More servers, more APIs, more technical muscle. But for agents working in a business, the reality is the exact opposite. A platform's real job isn't to give an agent more power, it's to enforce limits. It's all about safety, boundaries, and guardrails.
Okay, so to make this feel real, let's look at a perfect, high-stakes example where all this theory comes crashing into reality: the business renewals process. This thing is a minefield of complexity, and it's a brilliant way to see why these limits are so incredibly important. So why are renewals so darn tricky to automate? Well, for starters, they're time-bound. But the real urgency can just pop up out of nowhere. They're supposed to be governed by rules, but let's be honest, they are almost always full of exceptions. And here's the kicker. Failures in renewals rarely happen because someone made an obvious mistake. They happen because of the subtleties that got missed, like a hidden clause buried in a PDF, or a small shift in a customer's tone that nobody picked up.
All this complexity forces us to totally redefine what the agent's job should even be. It's not there to be the hero and make the final call. Its role is something way more nuanced and, frankly, a lot more valuable.
All right, so this is absolutely crucial. There have to be clear red lines. In a process like renewals, an agent should never be the one setting the final price. It should never commit the business to a contract or override underwriting rules. And it sure as heck shouldn't be approving exceptions on its own or sending out legally binding emails. If your agent is doing any of this, it's not helping human judgment, it's replacing human accountability. So what is its role then? It's a coordinator. Its job is to watch what's happening, listen for signals, get all the context ready, and then line up the options for a person. But its most important skill, the one that makes it truly ready for business, is knowing when to just stop and hand things over to a human who has the real authority.
So here's what that workflow actually looks like in the real world. First, the agent is just watching, waiting for a renewal window to open up. Then it goes and pulls all the relevant context from contracts, emails, you name it. Next, it spots something weird, an anomaly, something that doesn't fit the standard playbook. And then, this is the most critical step. It pauses. It stops what it's doing and escalates, handing all that neatly prepared context over to a person.
And that pause, that moment where the AI just stops and says, hey, a human needs to look at this, that is not a weakness. That pause is the design. You could say it's the most valuable feature the agent has.
And this brings us full circle, right back to the idea of the platform. But now, we can see it in a totally new light. Its real purpose is to be the foundation for safe, accountable AI.
I'm going to say this as plainly as I can, because it's the whole point. A platform's job is not to make an agent smarter. Its job is to make it safer. It's a system that builds in that crucial pause we were just talking about. And how does it do that? Well, it provides these guardrails. The platform is the thing that defines what data the agent is even allowed to see. It specifies exactly which actions it can trigger. It enforces the permissions it has to respect. It determines the exact points where it must escalate to a human, and it establishes those hard lines that it is absolutely not allowed to cross.
A really helpful way to think about the tech stack isn't as a list of features, but as layers of constraints. At the very bottom, you've got trust and permissions. That's the first boundary. In the middle, you have unified data, which limits what the agent can even see. And only at the very top do you have reasoning and coordination, which has to operate inside those lower-level constraints. Each layer just narrows the sandbox the agent can play in.
This mindset also explains a really common problem: why so many of these do-it-yourself agent projects end up stalling out. It all comes down to this exact danger of having no boundaries. So what happens when a team builds a really cool agent? Maybe they're using some off-the-shelf APIs, but they do it without this platform-first, safety-first approach.
Oh man, they feel so impressive in demos. They can summarize documents, they can suggest next steps, they can even draft emails. But the moment you drop them into a real, messy business process, they fail. Why? Because they simply don't know when to stop. They don't have that deep enterprise context or those guardrails built in.
So let's wrap all this up with the single most important takeaway. The real value of an enterprise AI agent doesn't come from its freedom. It comes from its boundaries.
Here it is. Agents aren't valuable because they can decide things on their own. They're valuable because they help humans apply their judgment more consistently and at a massive scale, all while keeping accountability firmly in human hands. That's the whole game.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If the AI you're building has no platform, no guardrails, and no boundaries, when something inevitably goes wrong, who is truly accountable? It's a question worth asking before you let it run free.